And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. The amount of waste produced per year per person puts Canada 8th in place of the world of the most waste generated. Yet despite this, only 9% of the waste is recycled. The rest ends up in landfills across the country. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to 1992.
People normally go to museums to browse through historical or other artifacts, but to take a look at garbage, that was a switch. A group called Kitimat Understanding the Environment has been together for the last 2 years. It was launched in a kind of unusual way, and it's known locally as CUTE.
The idea for CUTE came from a grade 10 challenge class at the high school. The kids got together and were doing a lot of different projects, and one group decided to try and get an adult group going as their project. So they put an ad in the paper, and I remember because we had just moved into town responding to that. And so that group met, and from that group, different interest committees or groups sort of formed, and we started to talk about the things we wanted to be interested in. And out of that, I think the first real project that we worked on was the Hazardous Waste Day, and then things have just evolved from that. We decided at one time whether or not as adults we really wanted to keep it, but then we decided, well, how could we get rid of it? but it seems to have been catchy and good for the group.
CUTE mounted an education campaign in Kitimat schools, and at the request of the museum curator, started planning an exhibit for the general public.
We've had a lot of fun. We started in September, sitting down, the three of us, working through this, and all sorts of creative ideas flowed through, and it's been just a very exciting time for us.
So all of the ideas here came from the three minds.
That's right. That's right, yeah.
And there's so many innovative things in this exhibit. It's fun to walk through because you're putting across the message in a very subtle way, as well as a visual way. But it's so catchy that one tends to remember it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, a lot of time went into this.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the research had to be done.
Yeah.
Each text, each heading that we have for each part of the sections took a lot of debating amongst the three of us to get it just right. Even just deciding what sections we were going to have into the display. The environment and all of the issues within it are huge. So we had to be very selective and of course decide amongst the three of us which ones we thought were the best as a starting display. We'd like to do something maybe perhaps in a year and a half again, hitting these things perhaps from a different angle, but we figured this was the best as a starting.
The entrance to the exhibit, The Tale of Two Garbage Cans, was meant to reflect the state of most families' garbage, the cans overflowing, the sign of an affluent society which somehow has to change. By walking through the exhibit, one could learn how to reduce waste, starting at the supermarket.
We're trying to show the consumer that they actually have 3 different choices when they go to do their grocery shopping. Most people bring their groceries home in plastic bags. That's the largest volume. The second choice would then be paper, and the third choice is cloth. What we're trying to show here is that this is the most viable option of the 3. We'd like the consumer to take this past going from the grocery stores to also now taking cloth bags to the drugstore when you're doing your clothing shopping, so that it now transfers into all shopping and not just groceries.
A great deal of thought had gone into the informational posters spread throughout the exhibit, the kind of statistics that tend to stick in one's memory. The display cases were filled with glass bottles, nicely washed and tastefully displayed. And even though glass isn't a harmful product to put in a landfill, recycling it is a far better idea.
Even though when glass goes to the dump, it's inert, it does not hurt the environment. What we're trying to show here, though, is that by recycling one glass bottle, you can save enough energy to light a 100-watt bulb for 4 hours. So we're trying to show the consumer that it does save energy. The earth is then also not scraped of all of its natural components.
And the same goes for aluminum and tin and other metals. Again, some startling statistics. One product that's very visible at any landfill site is plastic containers.
Not like the other three materials that we just looked at. Plastic is something that will stay in the environment, in the landfill site, forever. It does not break down. It does not decompose. And as you can see from the showcase, we've tried to show a variety, literally hundreds of different materials that are now made from plastic, that every single one of them is going to end up in the landfill site. The other thing that we'd like to mention as well is the fallacy over biodegradable plastics. That many people now have, different stores will give you your products in what's called biodegradable plastic bag. Yes, it's biodegradable if it's in the correct environmental conditions. That means that it needs sunlight to break down and it needs air to break down. What happens in a landfill site is the garbage goes there, the biodegradable bag is there, but it gets buried within a day. And once it's buried under hundreds of other tons of garbage, there's no way that it can properly decompose.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thanks for staying with us. There are benefits to buying in bulk. Since you're stocking up on more in one shopping trip, you don't have to go to the store as frequently. That means less gas spent driving to the store and fewer opportunities to give in to impulse purchases. Let us return to the archives to discover how to manage bulk purchases.
You buy your bulk ketchup, put it back into your squeezable, and leave that in your fridge.
In order to reduce, reuse, and recycle, habits do have to change, but it can be done painlessly.
It takes time, it takes patience, and you have to sort of approach changing your kitchen one step at a time. Don't sort of go in with the attitude that I'm going to change everything overnight.
Does your kitchen look different now?
My kitchen looks much different now.
How?
But again, it's step by step. It started with the glass and the tin, newspapers, and we now do a lot more bulk buying. Plastic bags are reused whenever they're brought into the home. We try to reduce as many as possible.
Statistics show that only tiny amounts of plastics are recycled. Kitimat doesn't have a municipal collection system for such materials as newspapers, but CUTE has organized a regular newspaper drop-off.
It's been extremely successful. We have a drop-off system, which means that once a month in Lower City Center parking lot, we have a huge trailer where people bring their newspapers down to us. Last year alone, we collected over 30 tons of newsprint. So it's very successful.
And it goes where?
It goes down to Coquitlam to a place called News Tech, where it is then pulped and used again. But I would like to encourage everyone. We are hitting about 15% of the population of Kitimat, which in terms of tonnage is not enough. And we would like to appeal to the residents of Kitimat to try and please, again, change your habits slightly, store the newspaper, and bring it down to us once a month.
One thing that clutters up everyone's mailbox is junk mail. But that type of material just can't be handled right now.
Hopefully, soon we will be able to do that. But in the meantime, for some of the things that do come, you can refuse it. You can just cross it out, put it back in the mail, and if it's something that from an advertising company, you know, those envelopes where you get 500 different coupons in it, you can send it back if there is a name and an address to send it back to.
And then there's the garbage left when one finally pries some products loose from their packaging.
I guess one of the biggest beefs with anyone who's into recycling is packaging. And there's a good selection here of what I know CUTE considers very bad packaging. Could you perhaps give us some highlights?
Yes, I think probably the easiest way to explain this display is just to simply read this. Each Canadian family brings home about 1 ton of packaging each year. Now, out of that 1 ton, 80% is going to go into the dump.
A lot of consumers will say, well, there's nothing I can do because that's what you buy in the store.
It's true. And the people who make these products, they're very smart. They know how to appeal to all of us. They use texture, they use color, they use everything that they can. But what we have to do is to see past that and to be able to say that we have layer upon layer of these different packages which are not necessary. And that if we are more careful and more aware that when we go to the shelf and we know that we want a certain product, we look at the different choices that they are for that one product.
Fancy packaging also costs the consumer a great deal of money.
50% of the cost of your item is in the packaging.
It's hard to
So when
believe.
that's right, 50 cents. So if you know that you have just spent $3 for, let's say, a particular dinner, $1.50 of that has only gone into the production of the food.
And it's going to end up in the landfill.
And it's going to end up in the landfill site. It's going to be a very pretty landfill site.
Garden refuge clogs landfills, but the municipality is expected to launch a home composting project this year.
If we look at the weekly amount of garbage for each household, 1/3 of that amount of garbage is compostables. That's out of the kitchen, your kitchen waste and your garden waste. If you take that one step farther, each city or each municipality, 1/3 of the amount of weekly garbage is compostables. And then if you take that a step farther, it goes right into the amount of waste in British Columbia. And 1/3 of all waste generated is compostables. So yes, it does make a big difference.
The exhibit also featured the tale of two cupboards, the ones filled with supplies to make our homes sparkle.
This is one of our favorite parts of the display. Red, of course, showing danger. And red, of course, because it is filled with hazardous wastes. These are things that people use in their homes every day, in their kitchen cleaning, bathroom cleaning, laundry cleaning, and all of these products go down into the water system. When they're not going down into the water system, they are, of course, being inhaled, and we try to show how sensitive we as humans are to just breathing in so many of the compounds that come out of these aerosols. Even if the can says no CFCs, that does not mean that it is safe for us.
Benign alternatives for maintaining a clean home were offered.
And there are options which are much better for your health. And we have here a recipe for a cleaning solution which would not hurt either anybody in your family, yourself, or the environment.
But
and
is it effective?
Very effective. I mean, it doesn't matter what product you use, you still need elbow grease. And this is going to be exactly the same as any of those.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. While he played for the New York Islanders, he was known for such immortal lines such as, "When you give up 3 goals and 10 shots, you try not to get down on yourself," or, "It was a weird game. They just kind of found the holes tonight." Let us return to the archives with Terracite Wayne Flats Flaherty.
It was a season of constant highs for Terrace's Wade Flaherty in the International Hockey League last season. Among the pinnacles Flaherty achieved was the starting role in the IHL All-Star Game. He got his first taste of the NHL with a stint with the San Jose Sharks toward the end of last season, and he and fellow Kansas City Blades netminder Arturs Urbe shared the award for leading goaltenders in the league.
Well, personally myself, I had a really good year until Urbe got called up, and we went on a 15-game road trip, and we went out west, and then we'd go back east, and then we'd come back west, and we went back east. And I ended up playing 14 out of the 15 in a row, and it was a lot of strain on my body, and as we went on, everybody finally got sent back down, and everything worked out well. But that's where my numbers kind of got blown up a little bit. But I recovered from that as the season went on, and things worked out.
It had to be a big thrill for you to win the James Norris Trophy. That must have been kind of a pinnacle on a season.
It was a big thrill, you know. When I was going into training camp, I heard all the big things about Irbe. He was such a great goaltender, and when I went in there, I was so happy for just to play the way that I was. I was playing capable up to his standards, and I showed a lot of the coaches and everybody in the organization that I was a good goaltender, and I could play with Irbe.
There was one other prestigious award Flaherty picked up, the Community-Minded Player of the Year Award.
In the hockey rink, my job is to make saves. Hi, I'm Wade Flaherty, goaltender for the Kansas City Blades. On the highways, it's your job to make a save. Save a life. Don't drink and drive.
IHL championship also. How does that compare to some of the other accolades you won this year?
We were going through the season, and we were sitting there, and our coach would be in the dressing room before the playoff season started, and he would count out all the years of experience in the IHL, and we were up to about 87 years. There was only 2 guys that had IHL Turner Cup rings, and so then, you know, you kind of sit back and think this could be the only chance a guy gets at this. So, you know, once we went through it and won it all, it was just, like you say, the whipped cream on the cake there. It was great.
Flaherty has already begun preparations for next season by attending an annual summer training camp in Minnesota.
What it is, it's the player's option. If he wants to go down, he can go down any time in the summer, and it's basically how it runs. Is it's a hockey school that it's for the older players, and they also have young kids in there. But I like to go down there 2-3 weeks of the summer and just go down there, make an appearance, and start my training off down there. They run you through a pretty good training program down there. You're on the ice for an hour a day, and you're running an hour a day, and you're doing plyometrics and weights, and so it's quite interesting when you go down there and you see all the guys that you've played with. A lot of us go down there, so it's kind of like a little reunion in the summertime, and then you go down and you come back and continue your training from there.
You did the same thing last year. Did that help with your success?
Yeah, I think so. I think last year it helped me out at the start of the year, but the mistake I made last year, I went down for 5 weeks, and near Christmas time, I was starting to feel a little burnt out, and I had to take a little time off. Around Christmas time, I had to get a little breaks there and miss a few practices because my body was just getting overrun with 5 weeks training, hard training over the summer.
Plans for next season, what does it look like for San Jose as far as Wade Flaherty is concerned?
Well, you know, I think we got to go into training camp. There's three goaltenders now that they're looking at, Hackett, Irbe, and myself, after they moved Milas to Toronto. So it's I think what it is, it's all open, and Hackett's up on contract right now. He played out his option year last year, what I understand, and he's looking for a new contract. So that's up in the air, and there's 3 of us there, and if they go with a 3 goaltender system like they did this year or last year, things should work out. But if they go 2, then there's going to be 2 jobs and 3 guys fighting for them.
Would you be happy to go back to Kansas City for another year?
Well, you know, if Kansas City is what happens, you know, you go into training camp looking for a job, and if you got sent back to Kansas City, a guy's got to go to Kansas City with the attitude of going down there and working hard and trying to get his shot back up again. You know, I've only played 3 games in the NHL, and I've had a little bit of taste of it now, and I'd like to get back up there. But you know, if they send me down to the minors, I'm gonna have to go down there and keep playing hard and working hard and get a chance at her again.
Had to be a big thrill for you to enter Northlands Coliseum. Look up at the banners, skate around. What was it like? What was going through your mind as you were taking warm-ups?
Well, that was a little funny. I got the call at 12 o'clock midnight on a Friday night. We left Saturday, and it was just like, you know, oh, this is all right. You know, this is just like another hockey team. I got up there, and the guys, I had known them from training camp, and we were talking, and well, I went to the rink and went out for our pregame skate, and everything was fine until I stepped on the ice and I started looking at the roof, and I seen all the banners, the Stanley Cup banners, and right there, I just lost it right there. It was out for warm-up in the game, and the ovations, and it was just quite nervous.
How did you recover from it? Did it take you about, 5-10 minutes to get back into this game, or what?
Well, yeah, it took a while. They pumped 3 quick ones.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
The origin of bluegrass music can be traced to the people who came to America in the 1600s from Ireland, Scotland, and England, and brought with them basic styles of music that were generally considered to be the roots of modern bluegrass music. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives to the 1992 Burns Lake Bluegrass Festival.
Once a year we'd have a great big huge picnic, and someone suggested that we add music to it. So that's exactly what we did, and it has just mushroomed.
It mushroomed all right into the Burns Lake Bluegrass Festival. And just who makes all this possible?
Well, perseverance and volunteer people that have a personal interest in it. We have two families, and they've got families that are interested and have helped us out. Arnie and Bernadette Peebles and their two sons have been stalwart. Francis and Bob Peebles has been great. Their daughter,
she's my right-hand man.
Their daughter used to be here, but she's working on the island now, so it's been a community gathering. If you noticed the horse rider last night, he runs a little store down here at the ferry landing, and he rides security and checks fires and stuff.
The way Charlie talks gives you no choice but to believe in why he springs for these acoustic bands every summer.
Well, as I grew up in Texas, it was called Appalachian folk songs, and it was about the rural life of people and what I consider the backbone of the North America, the type of people, the workers, the farmers, the agricultural industry, and the blue-collar type of world. And they're the finest bunch of people in the world.
This year's festival was a far cry from the first one.
Well, the first one was, I hate to say it was a travesty of eras, but you know, you learn by doing, and we learned a lot the first time, and the second one was a little better, and it's just snowballed. And the unfortunate part about it is I'll learn 2 things today and forget 3 things tomorrow, but I guess that's just human. But I've learned that the more that people can see that you care for them, then they care for you.
In fact, it's gotten so big that people hail from all over.
The inquiries come all down in the States. We've had 2 from Japan this year. People are getting into the bluegrass movement and just staying right with it. You know, they're following the actual circuit that's going through BC.
And for those of you who didn't attend, real bluegrass has some very strict guidelines.
In order to be bluegrass, you got to have a banjo, a guitar, a fiddle, and a bass, or either a mandolin, either the mandolin or the fiddle. To start with, and it's got to be acoustic, all acoustic. Actually, bluegrass and country was the same music at once. The electric set of people that like to play on electric music went their way, they call it country. The bluegrass people that wanted to play straight acoustic went their way and call it bluegrass. There is a precise difference there, though. I mean, bluegrass cannot be, not for it to be really authentic bluegrass, it cannot be electrified.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.